Radharani Gopijana Vallabha Giridhara Yasodanandana Brajanaranjana Yasodanandana Brajanaranjana Yamunatira Banachari Yamunatira Banachari Jaḍa Bharata Kunja Bihari Jaḍa Bharata Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Giridhari Yasodanandana Brajanaranjana Yamunatira Banachari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Come on! Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Bo, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Bo, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. 1, 2, 3. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram, Ram, Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram, Ram. Hare Bol, Hare Bol, Hare Bol. Nitai Gaur, Hare Bol, Nitai Gaur, Hare Bol. Nitai Gaur, Hare Bol, Hare Bol, Hare Bol, Nitai Gaur, Hare Bol. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Rama, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Nitai Gaur, Hare Bol, Hare Bol, Hare Bol, Nitai Gaur, Hare Bol. Thank you very much. Very nice kirtan. $17. Yes?
Yes.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Iti teṣāṁ vṛṣalānāṁ rajas-tamaḥ-prakṛtīnāṁ dhana-mada-raja-utsikta-manasāṁ bhagavat-kalā-vīra-kulaṁ kadarthī-kṛtyotpathena svairaṁ viharatāṁ hiṁsā-vihārāṇāṁ karmāti-dāruṇi brahma-bhūtasya sākṣād brahmarṣi-sutasya nirvairasya sarva-bhūta-suhṛdaḥ sūnāyām api ananumatam ālambhanaṁ tat upalabhya brahma-tejasāti-durviṣaheṇa dandayāmanena vapusha saha suchatata saiva devi bhadra-kālī. Who is translating? Prabhu, we should chant this verse together, because it's otherwise, and very slowly. Make an announcement. Speak in Hindi. What?
Only few devotees, they don't understand English. For them, we have to have the translation. Only few devotees. 3, 4.
How are they going to understand me?
There is one devotee is translating.
Okay. So then the devotee translator who's the devotee translator? So you should tell the devotees that we want to read this verse together, very slowly, because it's a long verse. Better is to read it together. So translate. In Hindi.
Please translate.
Do you understand?
Yes.
How do they understand?
Only 2, 3 devotees are there. So this
But how do these people understand here?
English. Everybody understand English.
Oh, you understand English? Jai. Let's read it together. Ite teṣāṁ vṛṣalānāṁ rajas-tamaḥ-prakṛtīnāṁ dhana-mada-raja-utsikta-manasāṁ bhagavat-kalā-vīra-kulaṁ kadarthī-kṛtyotpathena svairaṁ viharatāṁ hiṁsā-vihārāṇāṁ karmāti-dāruṇaṁ yad brahma-bhūtasya sākṣād brahmarṣi brahmarṣi-sutasya, nirvairasya, sarva-bhūta-suhṛdaḥ, sūnāyām, api, ananumatam, ālambhanaṁ, tad upalabhya, brahma-tejasāti-durviṣaheṇa, danda yamanena vapusha sahosratata saiva devi bhadra-kālī. Śrīla Prabhupada ki jai. I will forget about this word for word, it's too much. Right? Can I? All the rogues and thieves who had made arrangement for the worship of Goddess Kālī were low-minded and bound to the modes of passion and ignorance. They were overpowered by the desire to become very rich. Therefore they had the audacity to disobey the injunctions of the Vedas so much as they were prepared to kill Jaḍa Bharata, a self-realized soul born in a Brahmana family. Due to their envy, these dacoits brought him before the Goddess Kālī for sacrifice. Such people are addicted to envious activities and therefore they dare to kill Jaḍa Bharata. Jaḍa Bharata was the best friend of all living entities. He has no one enemy, and he was always absorbed in meditation on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He was a good Brahmana. He was born of a good Brahmana father, and killing him was forbidden, even though he might have been an enemy or aggressive person. In any case, there was no reason to kill Jaḍa Bharata, and the goddess of Kālī could not bear this. She could immediately understand that these sinful dacoits were about to kill a great devotee of the Lord. Suddenly the deity burst asunder, and the Goddess Kālī personally emerged from it in a body burning with an intense and intolerable effulgence. Let me see what's happened next.
Verse number 16 does not have the purport.
This is a huge purport.
16.
What do I have to do with 16?
We did not read it yesterday actually.
That's too late now. Now we're in the 17th. I read the next verse, and then I go back to the first. Intolerant of the offenses committed, the infuriated Goddess Kālī fleshed her eyes and displayed her fierce and curved teeth. Her reddish eyes glowed, and she dismayed her fearsome feature. She assumed a frightening body as if she were prepared to destroy the entire creation. Leaping violently from the altar, she immediately decapitated all the rogues and thieves with the sword which they had intended to kill Jaḍa Bharata. She then began to drink the hot blood that flowed from the necks of the beheaded rogues and thieves, as if this blood was liquor. Indeed, she drank the intoxicant with her associates who were witches and female demons. Becoming intoxicated with his blood, they all began to sing very loudly and dance as though prepared to annihilate the entire universe. At that time, they began to play with the heads of the rogues and thieves, tossing them out as if they were balls. Oh, wait. According to Vedic injunctions, only an aggressor can be killed. If a person comes with an intent to kill, one can immediately take action and kill in self-defense. It is also stated that one can be killed if he comes to set fire to a home or pollute or kidnap one's wife. Lord Ramachandra killed the entire family of Ravana because Ravana kidnapped his wife. However, killing is not sanctioned in the Shastra for other purposes. The killing of animals and sacrifice to demigods, who are expansion of Supreme Personality of Godhead, is sanctioned for those who eat meat. This is a kind of restriction for meat eating. In other words, the slaughter of animals is also restricted by certain rules and regulations of the Vedas. Considering these points, there was no reason to kill Jaḍa Bharata, for he was born in a respectable, highly educated, exalted Brahmana family. He was a God-realized soul and a well-wisher to all living entities. The Vedas did not at all sanction the killing of Jaḍa Bharata by rogues and thieves. Consequently, the goddess bhadra-kālī emerged from the deity to give protection to the Lord's devotees. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti explains that due to the Brahmana effulgence of such a devotee as Bharat, the deity became fractured. Only thieves and rogues in the mode of passion and ignorance and maddened by material opulence offer a man in sacrifice before the goddess of Kālī. This is not at all sanctioned in Vedic instructions. Presently, there are many hundreds and thousands of slaughterhouses throughout the world that are maintaining the puffed-up population, mad for material opulence. Such activities are never supported by the Bhagavata school. Om Agyanti Mirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshurumiritam Mina Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitamina Bhutale Svayam Rupa Karamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Uta Parakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamsa Sa Sri Rupam Sagajatan Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sarvetam Savaduta Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitana Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakamvitam Sap Hey Krishna Karna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vindavaneswari Vrishabhanu Sutta Devi Pranamamihi Dipri Vanshakal Patru Visa Kripa Sindhu Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sri Vasari Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama. So there's always a struggle in this world between demons and devotees. Okay. And even nowadays we can see this very clearly, that there's a struggle going on. On one side you have members of the Hare Krishna movement trying to preach Krishna consciousness, and on the other side you have people who try to obstruct our preaching. And this is going on all over the world. I mean, I can only speak of Ireland. We had so much trouble with the Catholic Church because we were preaching God consciousness and they were averse to that. That is a general situation. And I remember a particular situation that one time a devotee was arrested even. This was in Germany. And he did some small offense. It was not a big issue, but the judge arrested him and he condemned him. Was about to condemn him. So then his lawyer, the lawyer of the devotee, called me a day before and said you should come and see if you can change the judge's mind. And so I came, the devotee, he had a little bit of hashish, a little bit of bhang before he became a devotee, and there was a warrant against him for it. It's forbidden in Germany. So I went to court, and just before the sentence, the judge heard that I was supposed to talk to him. So I asked him, Your Honor, I have a question. The jail is there to improve people, to correct people. Is that true? What do you think? It's true. The judge agreed. He said, that's a fact. I said, now he's already improved. He's already corrected. The judge said, how is that? I said, well, we don't take any kind of intoxicants. No tea, no coffee, no alcohol, no cigarettes even. No meat, we have non-violent, no meat, no fish, no eggs, no gambling, and no sex. The judge said, no sex. Like this, no sex. I said, only in marriage. He said, that is worse than hell. Take him with you, he is sufficiently punished. So sometimes, even some demons can be favorable. And he was released immediately and could continue his life in Krishna consciousness. Huh? But on the other hand, there are many times situations which are much more fearful, where Krishna comes in. I remember there was one devotee in Northern Ireland. Northern Ireland is a fight going on between Catholics and Protestants since 16th century. And throwing bombs on each other, killing each other. So we had a temple in Northern Ireland, we still have. And so one boy joined, he was a Protestant, which was unusual. Normally people who join are Catholics. They're much more devotional. There's a devotional element there. And so he joined, and then he left. And then the next thing I heard was that the priest called me, Catholic priest from Ireland. Southern Ireland is all Catholic, 98.7%. He said, you must come, this boy is there with his uncle. And I said, I'm not going to see any uncles. He said, you must, he's very powerful person. You will regret if you don't see him, he will be insulted. You will regret if you don't see him. So I went there, and there was this boy sitting there, and this uncle, and the uncle said, he was a very big fellow, head like a bull. And he said, I want you to tell James, this was the name of the boy, to never come back to the temple, ever. And stay with his mother. I said, James, how old are you? He said, 26. I said, come on, he's not a child. He's an adult. He should make up his own mind. Neither I should tell him, nor you should tell him. This 26, even God doesn't interfere in the freedom of an adult to go his way. Children, you have to control. You can't, but when once people are adults, Krishna allows them to roam freely into this world and do anything they want, right? It doesn't interfere. So he said, no, you have some influence about him. You tell him. I said, I wouldn't. It is completely unethical. He sounded like Hiranyakashipu almost. Yeah. And I said, unethical. He said, I'm counting up to 3. And you say it. I said, man, are you threatening me? He said, yes. He said, I'm threatening you, and you better say it. 1, 2, 3, say it. And I said to him, over my dead body. He was shocked. He said, over your dead body, you pass your own sentence. That will happen. And he ran out. And so the priest said, my God, you know who that was? I said, no. I said, he was a top general of the UDA, the Protestant Underground Army in Northern Ireland. He has 60,000 people under him, armed with machine guns, pistols, bombs. I said, you're finished. He said, nobody of us Catholics would dare to offend him like this. You offended him. Probably the first person who crossed him like this. Run for your life. He said, don't go to the temple immediately. Go to the airport. Don't fly to Germany. Don't fly to England. Don't fly anywhere in the world. America, he will be after you, and when you think he's finished being after you, he will be after you because you offended him in a very bad way. So I said, listen, I'm preaching here in this country since 12 years. I'm not going to move a thing. This is my seva. He's going to kill you. And then Super Soul gave me some intelligence. I was surprised myself. When I said it, I said, frankly, he cannot kill me. He has no power to kill me. And the priest was surprised. He said, how doesn't he have any power to kill you? He said, because if my time is up, my time is up. If Krishna wants me to die tomorrow in his hands, I will die anyway. Either I have a car accident tomorrow, or I fall from a chair and have a heart attack, or he kills me. And if Krishna doesn't want me to die tomorrow morning, there's nothing this man can do. The priest said, how can you have so much faith in God? I said, Father, Father, I didn't hear that. I didn't hear that. So I left, and the priest was in shock. So I went to the temple, and now listen to this wonderful message. 2 hours later, the priest called, and he said, my God, Prithu, have you heard the news? I said, no. He said, the guy went to his car, he turned the key, and a bomb took him away. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. You see, Krishna can do anything. He was determined to kill me. There was no doubt about it. And Krishna said, you go. Huh? You like that story? So we had some boys on the other side. There was one devotee, Patri and Uddhava, right? You know these two boys, Patri and Uddhava? They were in the Catholic underground army. And they asked their colleagues, how did that happen? How did you get news that this fellow is right in Dublin downtown? Said, somebody we have never heard went to the phone, called us, and said, this man is right downtown. We tried to catch this man since 40 years. We couldn't. All of a sudden, we get a phone call. This guy is right in hometown Dublin, right in your hometown in front of your door. We couldn't believe our ears. So we went there. We knew the license number. There it was. We rigged up the car, and 20 minutes ago, he came. They went to the phone. Bang. That was the end. Krishna can do anything. You see? So there is a struggle going on in this world between demons and devotees. And it always has been like this since time immemorial. And demons are very fond of eating meat, violence. Sometimes violence is necessary. Like on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, sometimes people say, how can God ask somebody to kill somebody? First of all, God kills everybody at every moment. Time I am. In time we die. And time is Krishna, first of all. Second of all, see, Arjuna, he was affected by sentimentalism, because he saw his uncle, nephew, etc. on the other side. The other side was sinful, because they betrayed the Pandavas for their kingdom. They were worthy to be killed. Normally, if somebody deprives you of your kingdom, the king will go to war to protect his kingdom. And there's nothing wrong in it. It's in defense. Now think about this situation. How do you answer this question? Here's the answer. If anybody asks you this question ever, particularly in Western countries. Say, for example, you're a policeman, and you see how your uncle is breaking into a shop. What do you have to do? You have to say, well, he's my uncle, I can't do anything. No, you have to arrest him, otherwise you become corrupt. So in the same way, Arjuna saw his relatives on the other side, therefore he had to fight. If he wouldn't have vowed to fight, not only would he be a coward, he would have not taken his position as a warrior under Krishna's control very seriously. Even a policeman, if he sees his uncle or even his mother, he cannot be corrupted by this is my family, he cannot be emotional, he has to be correct. Is that right? You agree? Everybody?
Yes.
He has to be correct. So therefore, Krishna condemned his cowardness and said, that's not according to Dharma. You have to fight. That's that situation. And so Arjuna fought. And sometimes we see even in our movement, what is that? Sometimes even in our movement, we have seen that sometimes we have to fight when we are attacked. There was one situation in Los Angeles. There was one man on the airport, and as soon as a devotee would come to him, he would take the book, the Bhagavatam, ripped it, and threw it into the rubbish bin. This went on for days. And so the devotees were complaining. And there was one devotee, his name was Keshava. Keshava was a green beret. You know, green beret, they are the rapid action people in the American army, the killer team, the killer team. And he was on that killer team in Vietnam. He would just go and grab a man and strangle him to death, coming out of a bush. They're trained like that. So he became a devotee, Keshava Das, huge guy, and he heard that there was somebody who would rip the books of the devotees, and for him it was music in his ears. It was music, So he went to the airport. And he was sitting and just watching the man, 1 book, 2 books, 3 books, and his blood was boiling. So then he saw that the man went to the toilet, and he went after him. And then the rest is easy to understand. He did a job on him. So I think he couldn't walk anymore. He had to be carried out of the toilet. And so Prabhupada heard about it. So he called Keshava into his room and he said, Keshava, where have you been today? He said, oh, Srila Prabhupada, I didn't have a religious service in the temple. Yes, but where did you go? Well, I went to the airport. What did you do at the airport? Did you distribute books? No, Srila Prabhupada, I was watching the book distributors. Said, why were you watching the book distributors? He said, well, you know, there was one man and he took the Bhagavatams of the devotees and he ripped them. I saw it 3, 4, 5 times. Srila Prabhupada, I couldn't resist. I had to go. Where did you go? I went on the toilet. Why did you go on the toilet? Well, the man went on the toilet. And then, what did you do? Srila Prabhupada, he said, I was possessed by the Holy Spirit. I became so angry that I beat him. And Prabhupada said, very nice. It's on tape. When we were Sankirtan devotees, we heard this tape. Very nice, very nice. We heard this many times. It was such a happy thing to see that Prabhupada enjoyed it. And you can see that when Prabhupada saw this, his devotees, all Krishna, were troubled. Prabhupada could be very, very angry. Otherwise not. In Calcutta, the Naxalites, communists, they were trying to pull in an engagement with Srila Prabhupada, one devotee from the stage. You've heard this story? And Prabhupada he jumped up, he was in the middle of Jayaradama, he jumped up and swung his cartles and hit the fellow. Blood came out. The guy ran away. Because Prabhupada was determined to protect his devotees. So that is there, that sometimes we have to protect ourselves. And because otherwise the evil forces will just play cat and mouse with us. And people are so far away from their actual identity that they take these positions, material positions in the material world. You see, in the ultimate issue, the whole world lives, people do violence, that means they live in complete denial of their spiritual position. In complete denial. Sex also. You live in complete denial of your actual spiritual position. We are spiritual beings, we are eternal, and our problem is that when we come to the material world, you have to take one body after another because one body lasts only for 20 years, 50 years, 100 years. Then what you do? Just like this shirt. Now this shirt is okay. You wash it for 5 years, it's finished. So you're forced, whether you like it or not, I need to go get a new shirt. You're forced to. Because I cannot run around in a Brahmin underwear in a temple, so I have to have clothes to dress myself. You know? So in the same way, as an embodied soul continuously, or this other verse, what is this other verse? Just like we take a new garment, what is that verse? Vasamsi vijana yata vihaya. That was Uparani. That one, exactly. You know, so that's our position. We have to take one body after another. There's nothing we can do about it. In the spiritual world, we are the body. But when we come into the material world, we think we are the body. Because in the spiritual world, we are the body. So we take this understanding with us, and we think this is a body. But the problem is his body decays. And so the world is suffering an intense crisis of identity. It's a crisis of identity. And therefore people that try to be somebody, they try to be themselves because they have lost their actual identity. Why should you try to be yourself if you know who you are? I went in Russia, there was a man sitting on a beautiful lake and he smoked cigarettes, American cigarettes, Marlboro.
And the huge advertisement, be yourself. So obviously there are many people who don't know how to be themselves, and they smoke cigarettes, they dress them, and make themselves a haircut like this, put a bone to their nose, tattoo the body. This is all in search of identity. You see? It's all in search of identity. That's why there are different fashions, because people are in search of identity, right? But we have a real identity, and that is the soul. So if you don't accept your real identity in your soul, you try to give yourself an identity in the material world. Just like, for example, now in India, I studied. Everybody shaves his head like this, and he has a dung heap, like a dung heap of hair on top of his head. And they look like pineapples. Is it true? It looks like a pineapple. Why is that? Why all of a sudden? And now everybody wears pants that are ripped. Why is that? In search of identity. That's all it is. Because they're in denial of their spiritual identity, therefore they try to give themselves, if they don't know where they're coming from, right? Maybe we come from the spiritual world. They don't know who they are, and they don't know where they're going to. In complete ignorance. And so in this situation, they take some mundane, some artificial identity, trying to be German, trying to be this or that, or trying to be cool. I saw yesterday one young boy in front of the temple, and these mirror glasses, you know. It looked so odd. You know, I mean, for an Indian boy, he should put himself into a dhoti, put a tilak on his face. You know, but he had this, he was more Western, he looked more American than the Americans. It's all in search of identity. People lost this. I remember years ago, I went to Indira Gandhi Airport here in Delhi. Must be 30 years ago, 20 years ago. And the whole airport was filled with thousands of children, thousands. All, you know, looking American from new French colony, and all these uppity, yuppie, rich Indian people live, and they were all dressed like Western kids, and the whole, I tried to find out what happens here. There was a huge Vyasa-san set up, and they said Mickey Mouse is coming from Orlando. And so I saw the Mickey Mouse came from Orlando. It was a huge Boeing 747. Goofy was there. He was sitting on a little chair. And a complete Arctic was performed. You know, complete Arctic to modern India. I mean, Mickey Mouse is a rat. They worship the rat, basically speaking. An Arctic was performed. People were chanting bhajans in glorification of Mickey Mouse. So far away. And the children dress up as Mickey Mouse and as Goofy. I mean, so far away from our real nature. Even in religiosity. If somebody is actually religious, he will not eat meat. You see, the word religion is interesting because it comes from Latin, two words, re, ligare. Re means again, and ligare means to connect, to reconnect. Just like in the Bhagavad Gita in the 6th chapter, verse number 2, what is considered yoga is the same, what is considered to be renunciation is the same as yoga, to reconnect with the absolute truth, isn't it? How old are you?
18.2.
How old are you?
Myself 66 years.
Has a brain like a computer. Amazing. You know, so it's the same. Yoga means to connect with the absolute truth. It's actually the same word, right, like religion in its original sense. It means to reconnect. And it's an interesting word because it means we were connected before. You cannot reconnect. You cannot have a reunion with a person unless you were in union with him before. Not possible. So the word religion is very correctly expressing our situation, that we have been before connected with Krishna, we were in the spiritual world, now we are here, and we don't want to go back to him. This is, even in original Christian writings, there's one famous disciple of Jesus who went to Kerala. What was his name? Thomas, right? Thomas wrote 2 books. One book is called the Gospel of Thomas. And in the Gospel of Thomas there's one sentence which is banned by the whole book is banned by the church because it talks about reincarnation. It talks about the previous life. The pre-existence of the soul before this body. Because according to Christian doctrine, you're not allowed to believe that you existed before this body. It's a sentence of the Council of Constantinople in the year 530. Condemned is he, it says, who believes in the pre-existence of the soul. Consequently, they can't explain why the innocent suffer. We know that nobody in this world is innocent, not even a child. Because everybody is karmāti-dāruṇaṁ, as Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita, the results of his previous life. Therefore, we can understand why a person is suffering. This is why so many people from Christianity, they go to atheism. Because they cannot explain the suffering of the world in the face of a benign and just God. So, in this Gospel of Thomas, he says one sentence. He said, "Congratulations to you all." What does that mean? Jesus is talking. He talks to his disciples. Why do they say who have come alone? Why do they? You came alone. Where is your uncle, your brother, your sisters, your friends from university? Where is everybody? Right? Everybody came alone, practically speaking. Maybe sometimes you bring your brother. Sometimes you may even bring your family in India. But in the West, for sure, every devotee, he came alone. He left everything behind. So this is a very nice sentence, you know. Congratulations unto you who came alone. That means people who left things behind for the sake of God. Number one. Then he says, you came from the kingdom of God, and there you will return. That's revolutionary. Not for us, it's not for us revolutionary. These are the facts of life. That we came from the spiritual world and we return to the spiritual world if we follow Vaishnava Dharma. So it's very insightful. And by the way, he wrote another book, which is the Acts of Thomas, acts like acting, the Acts of Thomas. There he said that he met Jesus in the year 55 AD, that means 20 years after crucifixion, at the court of the king of Taxila, which is in Punjab. It's also interesting. You know, but it is bent. So the idea is that we are spirit souls and we forget this. We live in forgetfulness, and the whole civilization is just a complete dream based on the material conception of the body, and that's why people eat meat, because they cannot see the soul in all creatures. We see the soul in all creatures, Vidya, Vinaya, Sampani, Brahmani, Gavi, Astini, Shuni, Travasva, Palita, Samadasinaha. So we can see the soul in all creatures. That's why we don't kill. We don't kill because we see the soul. But if people don't see the soul in all creatures, they think, I can just eat him. And how does God think about it? He says that in the Bhagavad Gita, aham bija sava yonishu, of all living beings, aham bija pradapita, not just humans. That means that everybody in the material world is a child of God, not just humans. Say if you are a father, who's the father here? Who has children? You have children. How many? 5. Very good. Imagine I come to you. You have a son? How old is he? What is the youngest child? How old? 13. Huh? 13. Say if I come to a family where the child is very young, and I say to the father, your child looks very tasty. The flesh is very soft. Do you mind if I turn your child into a pakora? What would the father say? And if you do so, what would the father do? He would condemn you. So in the same way, if you, as long as people eat meat, kill animals, they're condemned. There's absolutely no way that they can become Krishna conscious. And if the scriptures allow that you can eat meat, which is a case in the script, that Prabhupada speaks about the scriptures of the meat eaters, where this type of violence is condoned. I remember my own mother, after I joined the Hare Krishna movement, I convinced her to stop eating meat and to become a vegetarian. And so she was a pious woman, and she gave up eating meat. So, when let me see, here it is. When the priest heard about it, that my mother became a vegetarian, he said, vegetarianism is demonic. He said, only demons eat fruits and vegetables. It's the opposite of what we learn in Bhagavad Gita. Patram, pushpam, plam. And you see, religion in the three modes of nature. In ignorance, you consider religion to be irreligion and religion to be irreligion. It's an example for this verse, practically speaking. You know, that they consider meat. And he said Jesus was eating meat, which is not true. You cannot show me. So you see how things are turned around, and even the scriptures of Prabhupada says it very clearly in Chaitanya Charitamrita, in his discussion with the Kazi. Tume ye kahili pandita se satyahaya adunika amara shastra vichara sahanaya. This Lord Chaitanya, the Kazi tells Lord Chaitanya, my dear Nimai, what you have said is all true. Our scriptures have developed only recently, and they're certainly not logical and philosophical. And then Prabhupada says in the purport, the scriptures of the Yavanas, meat eaters, are not eternal scriptures, which is true. They have been fashioned recently. Old Testament maybe 5,000 years old, maximum 4,000 or something, 3,000, and New Testament 2,000 years maximum, and Muslim tradition comes out of the 7th century or something. And so they have been fashioned recently, and it's interesting that Prabhupada said fashioned, because you cannot fashion scripture, you cannot fashion religion. Although this is very common, that people, they interpret a religion according to their taste, right? According to their taste. You can, if you want to see this even in Bhagavad Gita, let me just find the verse quickly. There's even a verse where Krishna expresses this. It's in 17th chapter, Bhagavad Gita, verse number, there it is, number 1. Go. Arjuna says, what is it? This is 5,000 years ago. Think about that. O Krishna, what is the situation of those who do not follow the principles of religion, scripture, but worship according to their own imagination? There you have it. That's what people do. That's why you have so many different types of Christianity. They're not just the Catholics, the Russian Orthodox, they don't talk to each other. There's so many different Christianities. Why? Because at the bottom of it, there's a human mind. The human mind is there, and we are imperfect. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita also, there are two types of living beings. Some are perfect, and some are fallible, and some are infallible. In the spiritual world, everybody is infallible. In the material world, everybody is fallible. So even therefore, religiosity, which is the brainchild of fallible people, must be fallible. And it is not followed by somebody else who has his own idea. Like sometimes people say, well, I have my own Jesus. Sometimes people will tell, in America, I had an argument with a devotee, and he said, well, I have my own Prabhupada. He said, what do you mean with that? We were talking about feminism. And I said, what you say there is in complete contradiction what Prabhupada told us all these years. where's your love for Srila Prabhupada? And this person said, I love Prabhupada, I just don't like what he says. Think about that. I mean, where's the question of spiritual life? You love your guru, but you don't like what he says. You're completely disqualified. So people, like it says here, they work according to their own nature, and then Krishna answers this question. Let me just see, where is his answer? Here. O son of Bharat, according to one's existence, under the modes of nature, one evolves a particular kind of faith. That's what happens. What we have in mundane religion is evolved in due course of time. It is an interpretation of truth according to the human mind. And so therefore Prabhupada says here in this verse or in this translation, the Shastras of the Yavanas or meat-eaters are not eternal scriptures. They have been fashioned recently and sometimes they contradict one another. And now he becomes very clear. The scriptures of the Yavanas are three: the Old Testament, the New Testament, and the Quran. Their compilation has history. They're not eternal like Vedic scriptures. Where do we get the Vedic scriptures from? Tene Brahma Didaya Adikavaya Muyanti Yatsuryaha. From Krishna to Brahma. Adikavi is the first, the original Kavi, right? Adikavi, the original Kavi. And from there to Nard, and from there to Vyas, and from there, etc., 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 all the way down in disciplic succession. So then Prabhupada says, their compilation has a history, they're not eternal like Vedic knowledge, and therefore, although they have the argument and reasoning, they're not very sound and transcendental. As such, modern people advanced in science and philosophy deem these scriptures unacceptable. When the scriptures of the Yavanas, namely Old Testament, New Testament, and Quran, cannot properly answer inquisitive followers, naturally those advanced in scientific knowledge and philosophy lose faith in such scriptures. The question, why do innocent people die, cannot be answered in Western religiosity if there's no concept of reincarnation. Cannot be answered. I give you an example. There was a tsunami in Japan a couple of years ago. And it so happened that at the same time, the Pope of Rome, he gave a televised teleconference. So people could call in from all over the world. One girl called from Japan, a 7-year-old girl, and she asked a very reasonable question, and that is, Father, all my friends are dead. Why does God allow this? It's a very simple question. And he said, I thought the same thing. And we do not have an answer. We just don't, we can't answer. He said, but Jesus also died, he was an innocent, and you are innocent, and he started, speaking, theology, just to, keep her quiet. But in the end, he said one interesting sentence that one day you may even understand why it is so. And that is actually a very good sentence, because you just have to go to the temple. You buy yourself a Bhagavad Gita, read the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, and you know exactly why it is so. Very simple. You just have to take shelter in scripture. You have to take shelter in parampara. Then you know exactly why people suffer, why an innocent child suffers, because no one is innocent. Everybody is fate. Fate, or what is the second word for it? Fate or kismet, What is another English word for it? Huh? Destiny. Destiny is neither casual, it's not based on accident, nor is it unjust. It's precise. It's precise. As you sow, you will reap, unless you turn to Krishna. One time, one Indian man, life member, said, Swamiji, I imitate an Indian, Swamiji, can you read my hands? Prabhupada said, yes, give me your hands. Prabhupada looked at the hand. He said, oh, very bad. Swamiji, what is it? What is it bad? He said, I clearly see in your hand birth, old age, disease and death. But when you clap the hand in front of the deity, all your lines will change. And that's very true. That's very true. If you turn to Krishna, it's a complete different story. Even astrology is not any more correct when this Krishna factor comes in. Because by Krishna's grace, I mean, even this verse, one of my favorite verses in Bhagavad Gita, mat sita sarva durgani, mat prasadam tarishyasi, that if you direct your consciousness towards me, you can cross over all the difficulties of material life by my grace. This is how this works. By Krishna's grace, we can overcome. A blind man can see the stars in the sky. Layman can cross over mountains. Fool can become a great speaker by Krishna's grace. So ultimately, everything can only happen by Krishna's grace. We have to do the best in Krishna consciousness, and then Krishna will do the rest. You cannot do without Krishna's grace. Like even there's a story that Haridas Thakur said in Harinam Chintamani, I just read it, that in this material world, no one is able to chant the holy name of Krishna with attention, unless he gets the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. No one is able, no one has this quality to chant without distraction, unless he has Krishna. Therefore, then he says, therefore we have to pray for this grace, that we can chant. So we have to do our best, and as long as people eat meat, they'll never be able to understand, they'll never be able to advance. Like Prabhupada said, unless the soul, in 1944, Prabhupada said, unless the soul is seen in all creatures, unless the soul is seen, the dual frenzy between love and hate that you have, I love you, I kill you, will go on forever, and the world will never find peace. Never find peace. So therefore, it's so important to understand this principle. Any kind of hiṁsā is not possible to go close to Krishna. We have to be ahimsa, and we have to follow the rules and regulations of spiritual life. And then we can understand that actually the spiritual life, the material world loses its grips on a soul. To that degree, he goes towards Krishna. That's also my personal experience over the years. That the material energy loses its grips on a person if he turns to Krishna. Because in the ultimate issue, even when chanting, there's one sentence in, I think it's in Harinam Chintamani, that, what is it? That in the ultimate issue, there are only two realities. What are the two realities? Soul and? That's it. There's only the soul and the holy name. These are the only realities in this world. The rest is all deception. The rest is all illusion. So therefore, we should understand that if you direct, like Krishna says, if you direct your mind towards me, you can cross over all the difficulties of conditional life. If you want to change the world, if you want to, there are no material remedies in this world. There are no material solutions. The only solution is to turn to Krishna. And then even the material impediments can be mastered by Krishna's grace. I thank you very much. It was nice talking to you. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram. Prabhupada Ki Jai.